Hey guys, I wanted to first apologize again for not being able to be in class today. Again, I'm in jury duty right now and hopefully I won't get picked. Just so you know, if I do get picked, then I will make sure that arrangements are made so none of the things I'm about to talk about for the final exam are going to be affected. But I will keep everybody updated by sending you guys messages on Moodle. So your final exam schedule for Fall 1 is posted on Moodle. If you go to your Moodle page and you go down to the very bottom, it says Final Exam Schedule under the Final Exam topic. So first off, I want to talk about exempting your final exam. If you are supposed to be exempting your final exam, I have already spoken with you. So if you and I have not spoken yet and you think that you should be exempting your final exam, then you need to contact me, because you do not want to assume that you've exempted and end up getting a 0 for the final exam because you didn't show up. So in order to exempt, you have to have 1 absence remaining, meaning that if you're in a class that it meets 4 days a week, then you can have 4 absences. And so in order to exempt, you need to have 3 or less. If you're in a class that meets 2 days a week, then you can have 1 absence or less in order to exempt. You also have to have made an A on every single test, but you could have made a B on one of the tests by turning in the extra credit paper to bump you up to that A. And then you have to have a grade of 90 or above in the class once all grades have been entered. So again, do not just assume that you have exempted. If you think that you meet this criteria, if I have not already talked to you, then you need to contact me immediately to see if you need to take the final. So for those of you who are taking the final exam, you are permitted to take your final in 2 different sittings. You can take it in 1 sitting if you would prefer. So down here, I've got all of the times that you are able to take the final exam. So on Wednesday, I've got more time slots here, and I've got it noted whether I'm in my office or in my classroom. And then Thursday, I've got fewer times, and I'm in my office for most of the time. If you come to find me and you do not see me where I say that I'm going to be, then please check the other place. So if you go to my office and I'm not in there, go ahead and go to my classroom. I'll probably just be in there ready to give final exams. Please make sure you understand that if you are late to a time slot, then I will not allow you to come into the class to take your final exam. So if it starts at 9:35 and that's the time slot you want to come to, if you show up at 9:37, 9:40, I'm not going to let you come into class. Okay? It is not fair to everybody else who came in on time. So if you wanted to take your final exam in 2 different sittings, then you could come in and do both of those sittings on Wednesday. Maybe come in at 9:35, take the first half of your final, and then you can come back at 2 o'clock if you want to, and then take the second half. But you can only break it up into 2 different sittings. I will not let you study in between any other sittings. So for Math 94 students, you will have 5 parts for your final exam. Each part will represent one of your tests. So part 1 is going to be test 1 material, part 2 is test 2 material, and so on and so forth. So if you take your final exam in 2 different sittings, then you'll take parts 1 through 3 in the first sitting, and then you will take parts 4 and 5 in the second sitting. I will not let you break it up any earlier than once you finish part 3. You have to do the first 3 parts in the first sitting. So I forgot to mention that if you do decide that you want to come in and do your entire final exam, let's say at 8:30 in the morning, then you don't have to come to your class at all. That counts as your attendance for the rest of the week, and you'll be good to go. For Math 95 students, you will have only 3 parts to your final exam. The test 4 that we took over graphing those quadratic equations, that is not going to be on your final exam, so you'll only have material from tests 1, 2, and 3 on there. For your sittings, you must take parts 1 and 2 in your first sitting, and then you will take the 3rd part for your second sitting. So if you were to come in at 11 o'clock on Thursday to take your final exam, make sure that you understand that I do leave at noon. So if you're not finished with your final exam, then I'm sorry, but I'm going to go ahead and take it up. So make sure that if you are coming in for a time slot, make sure you have time to actually finish the final exam. Okay. All right. So now let's look here at the grading for the final. I've already told you guys that if you do better on part of the final exam than you did with that corresponding test, then I'll average the 2 grades together. This is kind of a way of getting a little bit of a retest on here. I'm going to be happy if I see mastery, whether it's on the actual test or on the final exam. So I'm going to give you a little bit of credit for doing better there. So let's say on test 1 you made a 60, and then when you took part 1 of the final exam you made a 100. What I'll do is I will completely delete that 60 out of the grade book, and I'm going to replace it with an 80. All of these grades that you get on each of these parts, I will put in the individual comment section on your test. So if this is what happened for you on test 1, then I'm going to put that in the test 1 comment section. So let's say that you made a 100 on test 4, but you made an 80 on that part of the final exam. Well, I'm not going to penalize you for doing worse on the final than you did on the original test, so I'm going to let your grade of 100 on that first test or on that 4th test stay at 100. Okay? So this can only help you, it will not hurt you. I recommend that you guys study for the test that you did the worst on. So let's say that this was you, and again, Math 95 students, you're only taking 3 parts. This last 2 ones are for my 94 students. So let's say that this is the scenario for this student. I think that this student should really focus on tests 2 and 5 because those are the tests that they have the most improvement on. If you are in my Math 94 class, you would have taken test 5 during week 7. I have decided that if you do better on your final exam than you did on your actual test, so let's say this person made a 20 on that test on factoring. If they make an 80 on that test on the final exam, I'm not going to give them a 50. I am actually going to replace that 20 with the grade they got on that final exam part. So that 20 would make an 80. Okay, so that is a huge opportunity for you guys to get some very big improvements. So please make sure that you guys study this, okay? So you're going to get 1 grade for your actual final exam. That's going to count as the 25% of your grade. So let's say that your final exam had 47 questions. If you got 35 of them right, then that would give you a 74 on that final exam grade. If you did write the extra credit paper, which we'll talk about in a second, then 5 points would be added to that grade. Okay? So for the grading, guys, I'm going to do my best to have them graded as quickly as I can. But if you think about it, for all of my 95 students, I'm grading 3 tests per student. And for all of my 94 students, I'm grading 5 tests per student. So that's a lot of grading, so give me a little bit of slack here. I will do my best to have them graded the day that you take it, but I will not guarantee that they will be graded until on Thursday afternoon, okay? So just give me a little bit of time to get all of the grading done. Once you see the note, your grade is finalized next to your course total, your final grade, that's when I am done tweaking your grade. I'm not going to do anything else to it. That is what you're ending with the class on. Okay. If you do have any questions about your final grade, please let me know. But guys, you already know what the breakdown of the course is. An A is a 90 to 100. A B is an 80 to an 89. C is a 70 to a 79. And an IP is when you get below 70, okay? So guys, if you see on your grade, if it did show that you made between a 0 and a 69, don't email me and say, does this mean that I failed? Because that is what it means. If you do not have a grade that is a 70 or higher, that means that you will need to repeat the course, okay? You are more than welcome to email me about it, but just so y'all know, that is what that means, okay? So extra credit, you can earn 5 extra points on your final exam grade just by writing an essay on how to be successful in the LSS Math classroom. Guys, this should be a very easy 5 points. Okay, so I've got all of the requirements listed on here. This is located in the final exam extra credit folder in the bottom of Moodle. Okay, so when is it due? It is due the Wednesday of week 8, which is finals week. Okay, so this upcoming Wednesday at midnight. Once midnight hits, it's closed. Okay, how long does it have to be? A minimum of 4 paragraphs, and each paragraph must contain at least 5 sentences. You can write more paragraphs if you want to, so if you have more topics that you want to talk about, that's great. Go ahead. Where do I turn it in? You're going to submit papers to the link on Moodle. It'll be titled Final Exam Extra Credit Paper. It is under the final exam topic on Moodle. What do I write about? So for the first 3 paragraphs, you're going to choose 3 topics, 3 of any of these approved topics, and you're going to write 5 sentences on each of those topics. So let's say that you decided that you wanted to talk about showing up to all classes, completing the homework, and how to use the math book. So if those were your 3 topics, then you would write 1 paragraph, which is 5 sentences on showing up to all classes, 5 sentences on completing homework, that's your next paragraph, and then your 3rd paragraph would be how to use the math book. Then your 4th paragraph, you will talk as if your friend in the class just told you they were going to give up and withdraw. What would you say to them to encourage them to stay in the class? Even if, guys, even if they got a 15 on every single test that they took, and there is no mathematical possibility that they could pass, there are still reasons for them to stay in the class. So that's what I want you guys to think about, and I need 5 sentences on that, okay? So this is an all or nothing assignment. So either you meet all of the criteria that I've set out for you on this, or you don't meet it. So if you don't meet all the criteria, you just won't get any of the extra credit. So it can't hurt you, but you have to actually pay attention to all of the rules for this assignment. This is where everybody ends up losing credit. Your paper must have a title, and in the title you must indicate the 3 topics that you chose to write about. Guys, I'm not an English instructor. I am just looking to see what you are going to be talking about in the paper. You guys tend to drift when you talk about things in papers, so I want to know what I'm getting into before I start reading. So for your topic, nothing fancy. It should say showing up to all classes, completing homework, and how to use the math book. That is quite literally what I want your topic to be. Okay? I have a rubric for you guys that is also under that extra credit folder, and this is a way for you to make sure that you have met all the criteria. Okay, you can either print this out and let a friend read it, or you can email your paper to me and ask me if I'll read over your paper to make sure that you have met all the criteria. I don't mind doing that. Since your paper's due at midnight on Wednesday, do not send it to me at 10 o'clock at night on Wednesday. I'm not going to be checking my email. I'm not going to want to read y'all's papers that late. I love you. Okay, so basically all you're going to do is read your paper, and you're going to answer yes or no for all of these questions. If you have to check no for any of the questions, you would not receive credit. So this should be a very easy way of seeing if you should, oops, sorry about that, a very easy way to see if you should get the credit, okay? So that's it. That's all that I have for you guys. So now you guys are going to go into the computer lab with whoever your substitute is, and they are going to have you take that 15 question multiple choice quiz. It will count as a quiz grade, which is only in the 5% category, so it's not going to do too much to your grade, but I want you to try your best. Okay, you can use your Scratch paper if you want to. You cannot use any notes. You cannot have anybody help you. Nobody can answer any questions. please make sure you move your mouse every couple of minutes, like maybe every 2 minutes, because what's going to happen is the computer is going to freeze on you and it's going to log you out, and that's going to take time away from your test. So please make sure you are constantly moving that mouse to make sure that you are not logged off during the test. Okay. One more thing, and I'll leave you all alone. Make sure that you guys have done the end of course evaluation, which is that annoying thing that pops up on Moodle where you evaluate me and the class. And then the other thing that you have to do for the final is just to take this assessment you're about to take. If y'all have any questions, please let me know. I am available through email, and I wish you guys luck. Bye.